Oh, so Blake Lively actually believed she could strut away from this whole train wreck playing the heartbroken victim? Please! The judge slammed that little fantasy into the ground real fast. After months of endless legal chaos, midnight filings, PR damage control, and what genuinely looked like a grudge mission against Justin Baldoni, the man in black finally snapped and said, "Enough is enough." Now Blake is reportedly livid because she just got denied the one thing she wanted more than anything, her attorney fees. And honey, we are not talking about pocket change here. We are talking about tens of millions of dollars torched in this courtroom war. Legit Hollywood money, the kind of cash that makes even filthy rich celebs sweat when the invoices land on the table. And honestly, every new detail that drips out makes Blake look worse. According to case insiders, the judge grew more and more annoyed by how aggressive Blake's legal squad became during the final stretch of the lawsuit. Apparently, there were constant late-night filings, massive oversized legal documents, and endless attempts to bully other people tied to the case into covering Blake's legal bills. Like, imagine screaming that you stand up for women while secretly threatening female PR execs and witnesses behind closed doors. That's the moment people stopped and went, "Wait, hold up! What is actually happening here?" The judge reportedly got sick of the non-stop courtroom theatrics. At one point, he basically told Blake's crew to chill and quit flooding the court with endless letters and motions, because he already had more than enough info. And that speaks volumes. Federal judges hate when anyone turns the legal system into a personal weapon. They see right through that nonsense. According to insiders tracking this mess, Judge Louis Lyman was utterly drained by the constant circus around Blake's filings. And honestly, some of the described tactics sound absolutely unhinged. We are talking 70-page documents submitted late at night on the East Coast, heavily blacked out pages, infinite fluff, and only a handful of actual pages that even bother to focus on real legal claims. It started looking less like a fight for justice and more like a desperate attempt to bury the other side in paperwork until they surrendered. Just one giant paper war designed to drain everyone dry, emotionally and financially. And here is the crazy part. Blake allegedly believed Justin Baldoni and everyone else involved should be the ones writing the checks for all of it. That is where this attorney fee battle exploded. Blake reportedly tried using California Civil Code Section 47(1) to claw back her legal costs. That law was originally written to protect real survivors from retaliatory lawsuits. The whole point was to stop victims from going broke after speaking out publicly. But now Blake's critics say she tried to twist that law into a weapon against Justin Baldoni, his company, and even the PR consultants tied to the case. And the internet immediately started side-eyeing how bizarre the whole strategy looked. Because first of all, the lawsuit itself was already collapsing in plain sight. Multiple claims had been tossed out earlier in the process, and certain allegations became seriously questionable once texts and evidence began surfacing. One example people keep dragging up is the trailer incident, where Blake allegedly framed Justin walking into her trailer as inappropriate, but later messages reportedly showed she had invited him in herself. Once that detail dropped, a lot of folks started squinting at the entire story. Then came the legal gymnastics. Blake's team allegedly tried using California law in a New York federal court over a movie that was mostly filmed in New Jersey. And when that did not work, similar legal strategies reportedly popped up in Texas too. At that point, people were like, okay, so are we just law shopping for whichever state gives us the best chance to force someone else to pay the bills? Because that is exactly what this started feeling like. Not justice, not accountability, just pure desperation. And meanwhile, Justin Baldoni was not exactly slinking away quietly either. And that is what makes this whole mess even more insane. Usually small-time indie filmmakers or mid-tier Hollywood nobodies would totally collapse under this kind of heat from two A-list titans like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. But Justin Baldoni stuck around, and apparently that stunned half the industry because, remember, this was never just about Blake. Ryan Reynolds was knee-deep in it too. Reports say Ryan was tweaking scripts, steering promo campaigns, leaning on his production baby Maximum Effort, and crafting the public story around Justin right when the controversy was boiling over. Ryan was supposedly right in the trenches, helping Blake fight this war from the shadows. But then something juicy happened. The second public opinion started flipping. Ryan vanished into thin air, and people clocked it instantly. While Blake was out there facing reporters and cringy red carpet interrogations all alone, Ryan Reynolds was apparently chilling in Bermuda at some sailing regatta as if nothing was going down. And sorry, not sorry, but the optics were disastrous. For years, Blake and Ryan sold everyone this flawless power couple fantasy. Quirky interviews, adorable red carpet poses, social media memes, the whole glossy Hollywood dream. But during what was arguably Blake's biggest public meltdown ever, Ryan was MIA, and the internet immediately asked the obvious question. If Blake was truly innocent and unfairly dragged like they claimed, then why did Ryan suddenly ghost when things turned nasty? Ryan Reynolds disappearing at the absolute worst moment honestly became one of the most talked about angles of this whole circus, because all of a sudden, the same guy who allegedly helped Blake go after Justin Baldoni behind the scenes was nowhere to be found once legal pressure started crushing her in public. And folks started noticing how carefully Ryan distanced himself once evidence, court filings, and settlement talks became common knowledge. Meanwhile, Blake kept doubling down. And here is where the story gets even messier, because apparently Blake's team became obsessed with clawing back those legal fees at any cost. According to multiple reports around the case, Blake was not just going after Justin Baldoni and his company financially, but also targeting other people tied to the mess, including female PR pros and witnesses. And that is precisely where public opinion began shifting hard against her. Because think about the image Blake tried to sell the world. She painted herself as this courageous woman standing up to powerful men in Hollywood. That was the narrative. But then behind closed doors, reports began surfacing about aggressive legal tactics aimed at women who simply could not afford the kind of legal warfare Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds could bankroll. And people were like, hold on! Something here does not match the public image at all. The judge reportedly noticed that too. At one point, insiders claimed the court became visibly irritated with the constant pressure tactics being used throughout the litigation. The late-night filings, the giant, heavily redacted documents, the non-stop motions. It reportedly started looking like a strategy designed to drain people financially and emotionally instead of focusing on any real substance of the case. And honestly, once folks started digging deeper into the filings, the cracks became impossible to miss. Because Blake Lively's legal strategy heavily depended on painting Justin Baldoni's countersuit as retaliation under California's survivor protection laws. But critics immediately pointed out the obvious problem. This case was not unfolding cleanly inside California jurisdiction at all. Yet somehow California law kept appearing in arguments tied to New York and even Texas proceedings. Legal commentators online started calling it desperation. Like Blake's team was grabbing at any possible loophole that might force someone else to cover these massive bills. And the numbers being thrown around were absurd. Some reports claimed the combined legal war between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni hit nearly $60 million. Other discussions pushed estimates even higher. Either way, everyone agreed this thing became one of the most expensive celebrity legal brawls in recent memory. And by the end of it, the court looked completely exhausted. But what really shoved this whole mess into full celebrity gossip territory was the PR machine surrounding Blake. Oh, honey. Because the second Blake Lively realized public opinion was flipping, suddenly, a swarm of crisis management vultures started circling her camp. One name that kept popping up was Nick Shapiro, who allegedly began shaping the public story around Blake's legal fight. And according to reports, the message being pushed was basically this: if Justin Baldoni wins these legal battles, then every woman out there loses protection against retaliation. Now listen, that is a super emotional argument, and Blake's team clearly prayed people would emotionally link those big women's rights issues directly to Blake's personal lawsuit, but critics immediately fired back because they felt Blake was trying to hide inside larger social movements to dodge criticism, especially after details started leaking that weakened parts of her original claims. And honestly, the internet was not falling for it anymore. People started seeing this less as an empowerment story and more as a tale of celebrity privilege spinning completely off the rails. Because while Blake was publicly crying about emotional stress and legal hardship, She was also strutting to the Met Gala carrying luxury accessories worth more than most people make in a year. And girl, the timing could not have been worse. Just hours after the lawsuit settlement news went public, Blake showed up at the Met Gala acting like everything was totally fine. Cameras popping, giant smiles, fashion interviews, and then she started rambling about her custom purse inspired by her kids' artwork, like it was some deeply emotional creative masterpiece. Except the internet immediately discovered that the luxury designer had already been making those exact kinds of custom bags for rich clients for years. Then it got worse. People realized versions of the bag were being sold for around 10 grand. So now Blake was standing there whining about emotional struggles and legal stress, while casually carrying a tiny crystal-covered purse worth more than most people's rent for months. The optics were absolutely disgusting. And honestly, Blake just kept making herself look more out of touch with reality every single week. The story dragged on. But wait until you hear what went down during the settlement negotiations. Because this is the part that truly shocked everyone following the case. Apparently, Blake and Ryan Reynolds desperately wanted one specific thing included in the settlement agreement, an NDA, a full non-disclosure agreement. They reportedly wanted Justin Baldoni permanently gagged from publicly discussing what happened during this entire nightmare. And honestly, that alone tells you how terrified they were becoming about Justin eventually telling his side publicly, because by this point, the narrative had already shifted massively online. Oh, but Justin Baldoni and his wife Emily Baldoni allegedly refused completely. Like, completely. And according to insiders, Emily Baldoni played like a major role standing firm during those talks. Reports claimed she pushed back hard against any attempt to silence Justin publicly. The message was really painfully simple. No NDA, no deal. And honestly, that might have been the exact moment Blake Lively realized she had totally lost control, because once Justin Baldoni refused to sign that NDA, everything just flipped. Suddenly, Blake and Ryan Reynolds could no longer guarantee silence. They could no longer control the story behind closed doors. And for two people who built their whole public image around carefully managing perception, that had to be absolutely terrifying. According to reports around the settlement, Blake was so allegedly desperate to avoid trial. And honestly, can you blame her? By then, the public narrative had already shifted dramatically. Every new filing seemed to create more questions than sympathy. People were picking apart inconsistencies online daily. Legal commentators were trashing the strategy. Even casual gossip pages were turning against her. And here's the thing. Once discovery fully unfolds in high-profile cases like this, it gets dangerous for everyone. Text messages surface, emails surface, internal conversations surface. Nothing stays private anymore. That is exactly why so many celebrity lawsuits settle before trial. Because once everything becomes public record, there is no undo button. So eventually Blake agreed to settle. But here's the part everyone keeps obsessing over. No money reportedly changed hands. There was no admission of guilt. And most importantly, Justin Baldoni walked away without being silenced. No gag order, no permanent restrictions. Not a single damn one. Period. Nothing is stopping him from spilling all the tea later if he feels like it. And apparently, Hollywood insiders already think Justin Baldoni is gearing up for exactly that. Because now rumors are flying everywhere about possible interviews, documentaries, streaming deals, hell, even book offers. Some reports claim Justin Baldoni could rake in millions for a full tell-all project about everything that allegedly went down behind the scenes during It Ends With Us and the legal war that followed. And let's be real, people would eat that up with a spoon. This whole scandal became one of the most bizarre Hollywood meltdowns in recent memory, especially because it exposed just how vicious celebrity PR campaigns can allegedly get when reputations are on the line. And Justin's supporters believe that is exactly what happened to him. They think Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds used every drop of celebrity power they had to publicly crush him before any evidence could even properly come out. They point to media narratives, coordinated PR messaging, social pressure campaigns, and A-list connections all turning against Justin almost the second accusations surfaced. Which brings us to one of the strangest parts of this whole mess: Vital Voices. Now, this situation genuinely shocked a lot of people because Vital Voices is supposed to be this respected nonprofit focused on women's empowerment and advocacy. Justin Baldoni had reportedly received an award from them recognizing his work supporting women and girls. It was a major public honor. But then, almost immediately after Blake filed her legal complaint, the organization publicly yanked Justin's award. And people started connecting dots real fast because Blake Lively reportedly followed the organization publicly online. And critics began whispering that powerful Hollywood connections may have influenced the timing of everything. Now, obviously, no one can prove private conversations happened behind closed doors, but online discussions exploded over how perfectly timed the whole thing looked. Justin gets honored publicly, allegations suddenly explode, the award gets revoked, and his reputation takes a massive hit overnight. To many people watching this story unfold, it started looking less like coincidence and more like a coordinated humiliation campaign. And honestly, that is the kind of stuff that makes the public deeply uncomfortable. Because once charities, media outlets, PR firms, celebrity friendships, and legal pressure all start overlapping together, regular people begin feeling like the entire system is rigged for wealthy celebrities. Meanwhile, Blake kept making public appearances that only seemed to make her look worse. The Met Gala mess especially became the ultimate symbol of everything critics hated about Blake Lively during this disaster. Because while normal people kept hearing about insane legal bills and emotional torture, Blake was out there flexing luxury fashion, yapping about custom accessories inspired by her kids, and strutting red carpets like nothing ever happened. And the internet absolutely roasted her for it. People called it tone-deaf, out of touch, embarrassingly privileged. Some even said Blake seemed completely incapable of understanding how regular folks viewed this whole situation anymore. Because while she was allegedly trying to force other people to cover her legal fees, she was simultaneously carrying luxury items worth thousands and playing the poor struggling victim. The contrast was ugly. And then we have Colleen Hoover. Honestly, this part got really sad because Colleen Hoover got dragged into the fallout whether she liked it or not. When Justin Baldoni originally grabbed the rights to It Ends With Us, he reportedly worked closely with Colleen and kept her heavily involved every step of the way. By all accounts, he truly respected the source material. But once Blake entered the chat and tension started boiling behind the scenes, fans noticed Colleen seemed to publicly pivot toward Blake's side. She unfollowed Justin online, posted supportive stuff about Blake, and stayed dead silent while Justin faced massive public backlash. And that decision backfired badly, because now a huge chunk of readers blame Colleen for ditching Justin way too fast before any real evidence came out. Fans accuse her of getting swept up in Hollywood celebrity culture and choosing status over loyalty. Fair or not, her reputation definitely took a hit from this whole circus. And honestly, here is the craziest part about this entire scandal. Almost everyone involved walked away damaged somehow. Blake Lively's carefully manufactured image took a massive beating. Ryan Reynolds suddenly looks suspiciously absent whenever things get hard. Colleen Hoover pissed off a big slice of her audience. Hollywood PR culture got exposed in the ugliest way possible. And Justin Baldoni, the guy so many people originally assumed was done for, somehow walked away with public sympathy growing around him instead. That is so not the ending Blake Lively expected. At all. At all.